Voting isn't just going to the polls on election day anymore. Options like early voting, mail-in voting, and ballot drop boxes are available to more voters and are growing in popularity.
How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, breaks down the options your state offers for casting a ballot, empowering you to decide when and where to vote.
Democracy works best when we all vote, but misinformation and confusion about election procedures have resulted in low voter turnout. How to Vote, a tool created by Democracy Works, takes the guesswork out of the voting process.
It's easy to use, and it helps folks from all over the country overcome many of the process barriers to voting.
Democracy Works is committed to helping you vote no matter what. Their tool, How to Vote, does just that.
You can use the tool to sign up for election reminders.
See what's on your ballot.
Get step-by-step assistance requesting your mail ballot.
Explore your options for returning your voted mail ballot.
Check your voter registration status.
Find your polling site.
And make sure that you have the appropriate ID.
Decide when and where you'll vote this year at howto.vote.
Hi, I'm Parker, and I use they, them pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mike, and I use he, him pronouns, and this is the Graphic Novel Podcast. Welcome to this week's show, the Graphic Novel Podcast, where we discuss graphic novels, zines, and other comics, and we throw in a bit of real life.
Sometimes we talk about queer issues, race issues, death, relationships.
And we have a new episode every single Friday. If you like the show, we'd appreciate it if you went on Apple Podcasts and gave us 5 stars. If you have time to give us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, any place, we'd really appreciate it.
Make sure that you subscribe so that every time our podcast goes live on Friday mornings, it's going to show right up in your feed and be there waiting for you to listen.
And you can interact with us on Twitter, Facebook, Insta, and if you visit us at anchor.fm/graphic novel podcast, you can leave us a voice message, which we might share for everybody else to hear.
Most importantly, if you want to help this podcast grow and keep on going, make sure that you share the podcast, the Graphic Novel Podcast, that is, with your friends. That's the best way to help us. Please do it.
Yes, seriously. Hey, and welcome to episode number 50.
Woohoo.
Number 50. We've made it to 50 episodes. In 2 weeks, will be 52, which is just a year, but 50 is, I guess, a special number.
Sure.
And to make number 50 special, we have our first interview.
Our first interview, folks.
That's right. We are talking to Ryan Estrada, who has done a lot of stuff, but his most recent things coming out this year were Banned Book Club.
Just came out this year.
And
coming out in August is Student Ambassador.
That's right. So some great books. We can talk to Ryan for a few minutes and discuss those books with him. How's everything with you, Parker?
You know, things are going pretty good. The weather's nice with a few little breaks of cooler, rainy weather, which is honestly the kind of weather not that I only enjoy the rainy weather, but it's nice when you have those 80-degree days with some breaks of, at least you have something to look forward to. It's not weeks and weeks and weeks of just 80 and that's all you get.
I know. I appreciate the cool weather, and especially at night, and a little rain here and there.
Oh my God, the East Coast. The East Coast weather. If nobody listening has lived on or lives on the East Coast, we lived in Buffalo. Mike lived there, most of his life, and I lived there for about 8 years. And it doesn't, like, when I was growing up, my mom, like, the way to keep the house cool, because we didn't have AC growing up, you really didn't need it. But the way to keep the house cool was to open up all the windows early in the morning and then shut them down by the time it got around, 65 degrees. The house stayed nice and cool as long as your house was insulated well enough, I guess. And while the outside kept warming up. So I tried that trick when I lived in Buffalo, and it never worked because it was so hot and humid all night long that the temp never came down.
Yeah.
So it was impossible to try and cool your house off at night because it just never got that cool.
Yeah, we usually just had a fan going.
Just a fan all the time. I used wet washcloths all the time. Just put wet washcloths on my body and the baby at the time too.
Wet wipes.
not wet wipes,
Oh,
wet
okay.
washcloths on the baby too, because little kids, their
Mhm.
bodies can fluctuate pretty easily with
Mhm.
with the weather, so you have to be pretty careful. But I guess if you're born there, I don't know. Anyway,
No, it doesn't.
it was
matter.
probably worse for me than it was but for our littlest at the time, I could just they could run around in a diaper all day long, and that was fine for them. Whereas I had I had to wear sweatshirts.
I ran around in a diaper.
Still, you still do.
I still do.
You still enjoy
I'm going
that.
back to that.
But
Anyhow, all
you
right.
probably shouldn't joke about that.
So we're going to discuss discuss those two books a little bit, and but first let's do a little bit of news. All right, on Friday evening, July 24th, the 32nd annual Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards were presented at a virtual ceremony. I think it was probably the first time they've done that.
Probably, yeah, I would imagine so. Why
Yeah.
would they ever have needed to before?
Oh shoot! What was his name that did the
Phil Lamar? Phil Lamar?
something like that?
Oh, that's not nice.
I know, I forgot already.
All right, I'll just Google it.
You can look it.
I mean,
Google
search it.
Search it. You can Google it up. But
Yep, Phil Lamar. I recognized him from his Mad TV days. He was one of the first original cast members on Mad TV.
Yeah, I don't remember that. I knew his face right away. But
did you watch Mad TV?
Oh yeah, I watched it when it first came out.
Yeah, so did we. Yeah.
You were a tiny tot.
It probably wasn't when it first came out, but I remember like Deborah Wilson and Phil Lamar.
How do you know these people? You don't know band member names. How do you know who these people are?
I don't because we watched it every week.
Yeah,
I can't tell
Deborah
you
Wilson,
why.
the
I
one
mean, my
woman-
parents
probably
probably didn't really approve of it.
Probably the one woman I know.
Deborah Wilson,
Yeah.
black woman.
Oh no, the white woman, the blonde.
Nicole Sullivan.
Oh yeah. Okay, her. Yep.
See, I know some names.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, she was on I mean, not recently, but she was on that Disjointed with
Oh yeah.
God, what was her name?
Yes,
See, I can't the names that I should remember because she's extremely famous.
Yeah.
And I've had a crush on her forever. I can't remember what
She
is
was
her
on
name.
The Office too. I can't think of her name.
Yes, I can't.
She played Joe on The Office.
breast cancer survivor.
Yeah, okay. Anyhow,
So
the
that bothers me so much.
The Will Eisner Awards. We'll give you a couple of them. We're not going to go through all of them. We'll give you a couple of them because some of them were books that we had read. The top winners of the evening were Mariko Tamaki and Rosemary Valero O'Connell's graphic novel Laura Dean is Breaking Up With Me.
Woo-hoo.
It won.
What episode did we do that? Episode 3? It was like really early on.
Ago,
yeah.
It won for Best Publication for Teens, Best Writer, Best Penciler / Inker, and it was published by First Second Books.
Kathy Bates,
yes. Let's see what else we got. Linda Berry won for Making Comics, the Best Comics Related Book, and Best Publication Design, published by Drawn and Quarterly. We haven't done any Raina Telgemeier, but she won several for Guts, Best Publication for Kids, Best Writer, Artist.
Yeah, that book like blew up.
She started
with the one book, and then it just all this range of emotions too.
Yeah.
Has our oldest read any of those? I know that we had looked at them to pick them up, but then we picked up the Babysitters Club because they'd shown more interest in that at the time.
Yeah, but we just got them 3 new books too, and they loved all of them. You told me they ate them all up before I even got home from work.
Oh my God, it was like a couple hours. And then, 3 books all the way through. Yeah.
Stan Sakai, who we just talked about last week, I think, for the first time with Usagi Yojimbo. He won for Best Lettering on Usagi Yojimbo and Best Archival Collection or Project. And he also won the Hall of Fame Award. Sergio Aragones presented them. And Alison Bechtel, Howard Cruz, Louise Simonson, Stan Sakai, Don and Maggie Thompson, and Bill Watterson all won Hall of Fame awards.
Yeah, that's pretty cool to see Alison Bechtel talk.
Because you've never seen her talk?
I've never seen. No, because she got inducted in the Hall of Fame. That was one of the ones we watched.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here it is, Phil Lamar. It says it later on in this story. But the publisher that can boast the most winners was Dark Horse with 3 for Invisible Kingdom, plus Best Adaptation for Snow, Glass Apples by Neil Gaiman and Colleen Durant, and a share of Dave Stewart's Award for Best Coloring. But There were let's see any other ones.
Episode 12. I'm sorry, I was just Googling it. I mean,
Okay.
just searching through everything. Episode 12 is when we read Lordine.
That's right. The best reality-based work was awarded to George Takei for They Called Us Enemy.
Which is episode 17.
Okay.
Where we read that.
Yeah. So we had a good streak there last year reading books that
ended up Eisner winners. Yeah.
Eisners.
Cool. Do you wonder, see, this is the thing with those awards. I don't know personally how this awards
is voted
work,
on
how
by
these work.
Industry people. Like you got to be involved in the industry.
Okay. So is it like the
peer thing?
Is it but is it like the Academy where you have to bribe your way into it? Like, is that how it works? Because if that's how it works, I can't put much faith in it.
No, I know it's still a big deal. I mean, Alison Bechdel.
Because it gets your name out there. But I mean, Alison Bechdel is huge in the community now.
Yes, but like she even said,
but she's a female. A queer woman in an industry that doesn't really raise queer women up. I mean. Yep.
Well, and she even said
that's why I said it was so awesome to see her speaking and getting that award because it's awesome. It's amazing to see queer women being spotlighted anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I had said and in fact I bought you one of her collections of Dykes to Die. What is it? I forgot.
Dykes to Watch Out For.
Dykes to Watch Out For, and that's from the 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
And I had read some of them back then when we did Comics TV. So. Right. So I knew of her, never really knew her.
Well, and my brother told me about her podcast, the Bechdel Cast, because he's been listening to it for a long time. So that's really where I first heard about her because I wasn't really into comics until not long before we started the podcast. In case anybody can't tell when listening to me, I'm not. I haven't been into this for a long time. But I mean, I love to see minorities being boosted. That's why I said that I was glad to see her.
Oh no,
you seem like you were surprised to hear me say that. So
no, but I was saying, I mean, she said it herself that she was surprised that, I mean, from an industry that didn't welcome her in the 90s to look at
Comicsgate, that whole thing happening with all these white straight men, cis men who are essentially just the out to only raise up white cis male voices.
Yeah.
So it's good to have somebody put in the spotlight who industry should be
the industry to recognize
because she's talented.
Yes.
Yeah.
That she has some.
But it doesn't
impact.
Just because you have talent doesn't mean that you get the voice a lot of times.
No, she was lucky. She was lucky to be able to do that. But she's also had some big things.
Is it luck or is it she has a lot of talent?
She has talent.
And finally acknowledging that talent.
People acknowledge it. I mean, she had a musical and everything. So so she's her home book. I forgot what it's called, From Home or whatever it was. Yes, we read one of her books.
Yeah.
I think it was the follow-up to that book, though. You can look that up. Anyhow, so so the Eisners, it was pretty cool. Are you
talking about Are You My Mother? That's the Alison.
Are You My Mother? We read, but there was the one before that.
I don't know that we read another Alison Bechdel. But you
that's what
you
I'm
know
talking
about it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she. But anyhow, they said that this was like the fastest Eisners ever. It was like 1 hour long because all they did was
award the
Phil Lamar just read all the nominees and here's the winner.
You don't have to wait for them to connect and
to come up and read it and speech and everything, which is
them off, and then
at the same time, which is horrible for the people that won because they didn't get to.
They don't get that recognition.
They don't get that same.
They don't
recognition.
get to come up and give that speech. Yeah, that kind of sucked.
They did speak to some of the Hall of Fame people.
I mean, honestly, I feel like they could have given. They could have had. I guess you don't really want to do that. Have everybody who was nominated give acceptance speeches and then
because
play
then
that on the air because then they all have to do the acceptance speeches and 1 out of 4 wins.
That's true. I mean, they could have because this was all pre-recorded.
Well, yeah,
so they could have. Yesterday, or the day that they did it.
Are the Eisner nominees announced ahead of time?
The nominees are, yes.
So
remember
the nominees could have recorded something. I mean, Alison Bechdel wasn't a live cast, right? So so everybody that was given a nomination could have recorded something because if it was a live event, everybody comes there prepared with an acceptance speech,
but you don't want to have everybody record that. That sucks.
It sucks. I know.
It sucks for the people that. Then they pick the one.
I mean, I know you don't. This isn't something that's expected, so you can't. You can't really prepare that far in advance and all that stuff.
I guess what I'm thinking is they could have had everybody that won yesterday record. They could have told them beforehand and had them record something. But then, but then if somebody is one of those people that wants to be a jerk, they could have like tweeted out, "Hey, I won an Eisner" before the award ceremony. I
guess, but why would you want to do that? Do they not know? I mean, I don't know how that stuff works. Yeah, I feel like people know when they're going to win. You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Huh. Also, Bad Weekend. We read that. They won something. I'm sorry. Have you not gotten there yet?
I forgot.
I'm jumping ahead. I just saw it when I was scrolling through our stuff.
Oh, there's a lot of categories. That was just the synopsis.
Yeah. And Crowded one.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Guts.
Which was
Laura Dean. We already mentioned that won several things. Nope. They called us 18, Enemy.
Which is 17.
Usagi. Best writer was Mariko Tamaki for several different things that she worked. And best penciler inker team was Rosemary Valero O'Connell.
Yeah, you said Penny Nichols won for something.
Yes. Best coloring.
That's episode 23.
Yeah, those were quite a while ago.
I know Bottom Feeders
I don't think Penny Nichols won.
They were nominated.
They were nominated.
Bottom Feeders was nominated for something too.
Yes. Bottom Feeders, yeah. That was nominated, but that didn't win. Wait, what did we say? Oh, I don't think Bad Weekend won either. I think
I did.
It was nominated.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, but a bunch of books. I forgot a bunch of other books that we had read. And Nagata
Kabi, yeah.
Kabi.
For solo experience. I think it was the second volume.
2, yeah. She was nominated also. And she didn't win either. But again, those
to be nominated is still
it's a big deal. And we got a good chunk of books that we had read just because we were reading books and lucked out that they turned out to be really good books.
Smart. We make such good picks.
Yeah, let's see if it continues.
You should consider yourself lucky. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah. But let's
little narcissism there.
Let's introduce Ryan here.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right. And we're going to be talking with Ryan Estrada, who's done a ton of stuff, including the 2 books we're going to talk about, Banned Book Club and Student Ambassador. Since he first started submitting comics to newspapers when he was 6 years old, he's loved to make things. He's worked on TV shows like Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law, and the super popular show. He's been in weird movies like Deadheads and Apkasur, the movie, The Real Love Story. He's acted in a number of plays. He's on and numerous productions of his own short story Guest List. He created a travel show in the early days of YouTube.
Guest Visit.
Guest Visit. I'm sorry. What did I say?
Guest List.
Oh, Guest List. He created a travel show in the early days of YouTube called Expeditions, which ran briefly on CNN Headline News. And he's been on all kinds of podcasts and CNN and a bunch of other places and run blogs. And he's always out looking for something else to do. So let's start with what prompted you to go to Korea to begin with?
Well, the plan was never traveling the world, but I happened to graduate from animation school the same year that the entire animation industry got laid off, and there was no work whatsoever. And I just heard from a friend, like I was talking on 4 a.m. and Instant Messenger, and someone's like, "Did you hear about this thing in Korea where they buy you a plane ticket and buy you an apartment, and all you got to do is teach English to kids that already speak it?" And I'm like, "No, but I'm going to do it." And I had a job within an hour. And
wow.
And then I had to go look at a map to find out where Korea was. And I just I enjoyed doing that so much that I just kept going, kept traveling the world. For a while, I moved to a new country every 10 years, for 10 years, I moved to a new country every year. Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
And,
that's a lot more moving than every 10 years.
Yeah. I'm not that old. I didn't do decade here, decade there.
Like your photo, you clearly are you look younger in your photos than you are if you're moving over 10 years.
Yeah, but so I've been doing that, making comics, but for the last while I've been settled here in Busan, South Korea.
Okay, awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah, so in let's see. So we were reading that in 1997 you were a student ambassador to Australia, right?
Yes, I was.
So what was that like? What did you do? Was it anything like student ambassador in your book?
It wasn't. It was yeah, it was more like a package tour. I mean, it was an amazing package tour. As I was in high
Mhm.
school and I got to go, we stayed on a cattle ranch one night in a barn, and the next night we were at like a fancy 5-star resort and getting
Oh,
to
wow.
snorkel in the Great Barrier Reef and
Mm.
go all over the country, do really cool stuff. And it was an amazing trip, but just like in my head, I was like, I'm an ambassador now. I'm part of the government. Like I thought it was just going to be this huge like experience, and I didn't know what to expect. But I'm like, wait a minute, this is a package tour. So that's kind of what led to Student
Yeah.
Ambassador, is like decades of like,
Right.
oh, this is what I wish had happened. This is like
Right.
my imaginary version of it. So it's fun to create what my kid mind thought that it was going to be.
Right. So is any of Student Ambassador like you in there?
Yeah, pretty much every one of my characters is me somewhere, the good ones and the bad
Okay.
ones.
Okay.
But Student Ambassador is just kind of like, in Student Ambassador, there's like the really nice kid and the really horrible kid. That, like, of course, both of them are based on aspects of my personality,
Mhm.
fighting with one another.
Okay.
But
Right.
mostly, when I wrote those two characters, most of it was like, the thing in my mind was just write one as a dog and one as a cat. One is
Oh,
like Joseph is the nice kid who like will follow everyone and do what they say and be nice and is always happy, and Nang is like he's like a dictator, but he's also
Mhm.
just like, he's a cuddly, adorable
Mhm.
character that just like does not care about anyone else, but is just cute doing it.
Mhm. Yeah, and in the end, I mean, he's just a kid too,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's cool. But yeah, that was good. That's coming out in August, right?
yeah. Coming up in a
Yeah,
few weeks.
yeah. That it's a good story. I like that one a lot. And
I mean, he definitely fits the character of somebody who is living this privileged life, and gets everything that they could possibly imagine, and their parents die young. You can see absolutely how he turns out to be the what one person calls a brat, because it's just like the way he was raised to that point, and now he's in charge of all these things with no idea what he's doing. But
right.
Yeah. Yeah, I call Student Ambassador a fantasy, but the fantasy isn't like, what if they were dragons? It was like, what if a kid could talk sense into politicians?
yeah,
Mhm. Yes, I know. I love it. I love the whole way that he gets involved in ending up going to do this and try and basically stop a war with another kid.
I mean, the way the world is now, I kind of feel like if we listened to kids more, we'd be in a better place.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
So, looking through your website, you've done a lot of different things. So, do you enjoy writing or drawing more?
Writing is definitely the part that I enjoy. Drawing is like the grunt work that I have to do to get other people to be able to experience what's in my head.
Right.
And I've loved recently, like with Student Ambassador and Band Book Club, getting to work with other artists and like see parts
Mhm.
of them that I didn't imagine coming to life. That's the best part for me, is writing and seeing someone else bring it to life.
Right. Yeah, and that well then that's a good thing for band book club, which is completely different type of story.
Mm.
And now, did that come out last year or this year? I had conflicting things when I was looking it
Yeah, it
up.
came out this year. It has been
Okay.
delayed a bunch because of the virus and whatnot. But
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was an awesome book. And again, we've read a lot of stuff that's like history related, and it's like books that people need to read to learn about the history of our country here. But that's something. There were things that I didn't know reading that, and it was really entertaining, while educational too.
thank you. Yeah, we tried not to make it about as much about the history, but about how the history affected the characters. Like, the history only came
Mhm.
in as like things that messed up the characters' plans, and we tried to make it
Hmm.
about their like trying to go to school, trying to get a date, trying to
Hmm.
join the clubs and things, and then history intrudes upon them.
Right. Yeah, and the style is a little more manga in that one, huh?
Mhm. Yeah, I really wanted a Korean artist to illustrate it, and it's a Korean story. That's
Right.
one main reason I didn't illustrate that one. And so we got a Korean artist named Go Hyung Ju who drew it in a very cool manhwa style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's great. It's a great looking book, and the story is great. I love how it goes. How you see these characters earlier, and then how they've developed and what happens over the years. It's very interesting that way. Um, so let's see. The Going back to student ambassador for a moment. There's Easter eggs hidden throughout the when they're traveling, trying to find their way. Whose idea was it to do those?
That was mine. The Easter eggs are that in the book, part of solving the mystery is that the kids learn to read Korean, which is a
Right.
very easy system to learn. I made a comic about it once called "Learn to Read Korean in 15 Minutes." It went like super viral, so viral that like I've had people yell at me at cons for just printing crap off Reddit, and I'm like, Reddit stole it from me. Um, and like there's actually it got so famous that there's a bootleg themed restaurant in China for this for that comic. And
Yeah.
so I incorporated it. I actually wrote the script for Student Ambassador long before the script for Student Ambassador. I wrote a long time ago, and so
okay.
I wrote it in this first, but this came out much later. And
Mhm.
so the idea was that since the kids have learned it, I wanted kids to learn. If you can like read a Harry Potter book and learn about like the history of Muggles and like all the different groups, like if you can learn all of that, why not just make the plot elements things that are in the real world? And like
Mhm.
Right.
if you're gonna fill your brain with something, it might as well be real. And like
Yeah.
maybe it'll never apply to your life, but maybe a kid will just be like all of a sudden at a Korean restaurant be like, I can read that. That's weird.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted like a little way for them to practice in the book, and just as
Mhm.
they're traveling around Korea, I just I have to make signs for the background, so I figure why don't I make it a game and just put all
Oh,
sorts
yeah.
of other book titles so that kids can like try and work out, find their favorite books hidden in there.
Very cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, that's definitely a book we have a 10-year-old, and I think that they'd like that book a lot. So we'll get a copy of that. Maybe we can get them to learn some Korean while they're in there.
Yeah, the reason that I realized how easy it was, I was traveling to America once and I was visiting a friend in LA, and I was just sitting in the car with him and his kid, and then he's like, "Do you guys mind waiting like 15 minutes while I go in the bank?" Sure. So I'm sitting in the car with his kid, and just so I just like on a napkin taught him how to read Korean, like just to pass the time, and just dad got in the car and never mentioned it again. And then like a year and a half later, he emails me. He's like, "Hey, did you teach my son how to read Korean?" And I'm like, "Yeah, why?" He's like, this whole year we've been driving around. He's been talking in the back seat. I thought he was just making up words, and he's reading
Oh
all
my!
the Korean signs." And I'm like,
Oh, wow.
"You remembered that? All right."
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you said that you graduated from animation school. So what prompted you to want to do that? Were you always interested in art and drawing and that as a kid?
Yeah, I wanted to be a cartoonist since before I have memories. My mother tells me that
Hmm.
like as soon as I started talking, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, wow.
I was applying for newspapers when I was 6 years old. Uh, I bugged the same newspaper until they finally hired me at 15 to do a weekly
Wow.
comic. And so it's just always been the plan. Yeah, I went to school for animation, uh, and then just have been making comics since then. Like I went in that brief phase where like, oh, maybe I'll go to LA and work for Disney, and
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
but then that, of course, that the whole industry getting laid off thing put a damper in that. But I'm like, okay, I'll go to Korea for a while, let this blow over, and then I'm like, wait, my original plan of making comics is so much better because I can just go
Mhm.
wherever I want. I can have an idea, make a comic, and have it up that night, as opposed to like working
Mhm.
30 years in an industry until I'm allowed to have a creative thought, and then
Mhm.
never being allowed to have those creative thoughts on screen anyway. And
Right.
Mhm.
14 years after I have the idea, a version of it that a producer liked can come out. But
Yeah.
with comics, I can just do whatever weird stuff I want whenever I want, and it's much better.
Yeah. So when you work, do you do all your work digitally?
When I draw, no, I draw on paper, scan, and color digitally. I'm still an old man like that.
Do you prefer that, or have you ever considered going digitally?
I've spent a bunch of money, and I have a bunch of like digital. I've had a bunch of digital drawing devices. I have
Mhm.
a computer now that can do it, but I've never been able to like make it feel like it's my style or feel like it's my
Mhm.
art. I'm not very good at it.
Right. I know. I look at some of the work that some people can do on that, and it's just amazing. It's like you, from realistic to to cartoony to whatever. It's just like some people just adapted to it really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a lot of what I do is digital. Like a lot of
Right.
times, I'm putting together pages like it's a collage because I'll just draw characters from different panels. Like, I teach, so as I'm teaching classes, I'll just be doodling on the back of kids' homework or old unused worksheets,
Mm.
and I'll be like, oh, I really like this one, and I'll just like ink it right on the kids' homework and
Mhm.
scan it and pop it right into the panel.
Nice.
Nice.
It's a lot of times like I'm putting together a collage.
Mm.
That's very cool. So you've done web comics?
Yep, yep. I've done a little bit of everything you can do in comics, but yeah, I've done a lot
Right.
of stuff for online. I the way my brain works, like I can't do, like I love the people that can do it, but I could never do like a daily comic with the same characters for 20
Mhm.
years. Like I just, oh, now I have an idea for a kids comic. Now I have an idea for a podcast. Now I have an idea for a mini series about this. This one's for YA. This
Mhm.
one's for middle grade. I just like bouncing from one thing to another and finding whatever medium is best for that project.
Awesome. Yeah, I know how that goes. My brain works like that too. I've got all different things that I've done, and they're always all over the place. It's like, well, where'd you come up with this idea? I'm like, I have no idea. It just came in my head, and that's
I wrote it
that's.
down. Yeah.
Then I wrote it down, and that became a book. It's
Yeah. It's a good way to get a lot of projects going, but like a lot of people don't understand. Like one of the reasons I can't get an agent is like as soon as I talk to an agent, like, what are you working on now? I'm like, oh, I'm working on this for
Uh,
middle grade, this for adults, this for like you can't do that. I'm like, what do you mean I can't do it? Like that's not allowed. And I'm like, well, I've been doing it my entire career since I was 6 years old, and it's been several decades now. I've been doing just fine. And they're like, yeah,
hmm
you're not allowed. You like if you're the guy who does like middle grade boy books, that's what you do for the rest of your career. And I'm
oh,
like, yeah, no, I
yeah,
don't do
that
that.
doesn't.
oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah, yeah. I understand from their perspective, but I don't think I could fall into that either. I just couldn't. I mean, I could probably do the same character for a while, but even I did 3 novels, and I think that was enough with the
Mhm.
same characters. And it's you can only do so much, and then there's 10 other ideas that you want to do.
Well, the agent
Yeah.
wants to put you into a box that
Yes.
that they want you to fit into, so that they don't have to do the extra work of finding all these extra boxes for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah. Then they got to try
I've
and sell you.
yeah, so I've just gotten very good at doing it myself. And like, like you mentioned student ambassador and band book club, which are 2 books. One's YA, one's middle grade, and they're coming out from the
hmm
same publisher within 2 months of each other.
hmm
So
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm doing it. I'm handling it, but
Yeah.
they're not fans.
Yeah.
that's
No.
okay. They're just not for you. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay.
Yeah.
So, what are you working on? I know these ones just coming out, but I'm sure you're working on other things already, right?
Yep. We're working on a follow up to Band Book Club right now called Occulted. That's about a friend of mine who grew up in a cult in California in the 90s. It was just like an hour down the road from Heaven's Gate during the same period. And about
Mm.
how
Ah.
band book clubs got her out. And I've got a whole bunch of other pitches that I'm working on for various things and producing radio and just a million projects that don't allow me to sleep anymore, but stuff that I love.
Yeah. So when you've got an idea, do you before you pitch it, how much of it do you put together, or do you just have like a synopsis of it before you pitch it?
Most of like I have such a backlog of projects I want to do that like the way I categorize projects is I have so many things in my head that like when I'm on a bus or riding a bike or something, I just it's like pulling a DVD off the shelf. And I was like, oh, let's watch this one for a while. And it's something I'll think about a project for like a decade until I'm like, you know what, this is actually, every time I watch it in my head, it slightly changes dialogue changes, characters change. And then I'm like, it's fine. I think it's finally time to like make this. And when I do it, it feels like I'm adapting something I've seen. But it's really just me like creating a version of it for other people to see. And then in my mind, I have an idea of exactly how it'll go. And of course, it all changes once you sit down and start writing it and realize this doesn't work, change this, let's add a character here. But when I go to someone, it usually is something I've been thinking about for a long time and have a pretty good idea of how it works.
Mm-hmm. So, like with Band Book Club, I know that it said that in notes it said that the characters were like a amalgamation of different people. And now, was that you co-wrote that book, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with my wife.
And these were people that she knew then, right?
Yeah, this was her friends back in college.
Okay. So she just she told you the story, and then you guys kind of just put together these characters that just came together like that. Is that how that worked?
Yeah, she told me her version. Then she kind of traveled around Korea and re-met with all the old book club members and some of her teachers and did interviews and we had a whole bunch of stories, but like this is 30 years ago, so everybody doesn't know like what happened before who was there, what nobody can tell me like the dialogue of what happened and everything. So, and also like we have a lot of people admitting to crimes, so we didn't want we changed name. We're going to change names anyway because of that, but also just narratively to get everything to fit together. Like everything in the book happened, but I don't know who was there. I don't know who said what. So it's especially with me inventing dialogue for these situations, I didn't want to say this person said, let's do this crime. Not that, there are of course crimes against a regime that's now gone. So it's not like people are in danger of being arrested, but still, I wanted to just kind of, Hyun-suk's a real character, but let the people around her, just kind of take their stories, and we just made a few characters that we can just kind of apply their stories to.
Awesome.
So at the end of that, I don't know if I'm giving this away. Maybe I shouldn't say specifically, but do you feel like the political climate has changed a lot from where it is? I'm pretty ignorant on the Korean politics as far as that goes. Do you feel like that political climate has changed a lot from where it was when your wife was in college and dealing with all those things?
Oh, absolutely. Korea is so different. Korea is like one of the best democracies in the world at this point. It's just like, the same people that were being arrested for writing things critical of the government, like went on to become the president and, get Nobel Peace Prizes and things. So it's the people that were fighting against that regime that are now in charge. And it's changed so much. It's so much better now and it's because of the people that were, standing up and fighting against it.
Mm-hmm. What do you? I know across the world there. What do you hear about what's going on here with all the protesting that's been going on?
Yeah, it's really weird. Like sitting down to write like this historical dystopian, like this is what could happen, and then by the time the book comes out, it all happened and got worse than it was. Like many things are okay. Well, here's an alternate version of what did happen. It's people are just like, yeah, we've been through this. Oh yeah, we know how that goes. Oh, it doesn't look good, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely interesting what's happening. Who knows what's going to happen by the time this is over?
Yeah.
But anything else, Parker?
No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
Awesome. Well, Ryan, thanks very much for joining us.
You want to tell everybody where they can follow you and find your books? And
yeah. If you go to ryanestrada.com, you'll find all the links to all the social media and everything, and there's tons of books full graphic novels you can read for free, and links to where you can buy the newer stuff, and everything you'll ever need is there.
That's awesome. Great. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate it, and we'll look forward to seeing your future work.
Excellent. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. The two books that we discussed with Ryan, and we'll go over briefly because we could do a whole show just doing that. But we wanted to talk.
We could do a whole show on each of those books.
We
That's
really
how
could.
how much I loved each of them.
Yes,
Honestly,
honestly, yeah.
they were both great books. Amazing artwork. Ryan was the illustrator just on Student Ambassador, but yeah, it just great work all around.
No, he wasn't.
I'm sorry, what?
He wasn't. He wrote Student Ambassador.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry.
That was illustrated by Axer Enius.
You're right. He didn't illustrate them.
Yes, he does both. He does,
But he co-authored with his wife on banned books. That's where I'm getting confused here. Okay, so banned books was, and essentially it was kind of a banned book club. What did I say?
Banned books.
Oh, banned book club.
Yeah.
It was kind of a autobiographical,
kind of
historical fiction, kind of. I guess. I mean, it wasn't really fiction so much, but it was based on her life and friends she had met in college, as he said in the interview. And so I thought that it was a really great story, and kind of went along with kind of what we're seeing happen here in the U.S., where you're seeing this police force that's just being absolutely brutal and basically thinking that they have the right to do this because the protesters are in the wrong. I mean, they are getting arrested for things as simple as reading a book. So it's not in the book. In the book, yes.
Yes, exactly. They're
part of this book,
books,
reading banned books, that they're not allowed to read, obviously, and getting arrested for something as simple as that, where you don't see that happening in the U.S. so much. So it's not quite but I definitely felt similarities between what's going on here, the civil unrest, and what was happening there back in
the 80s.
In the 80s.
Well. But the thing is, I mean, there are school systems that ban books.
Oh, absolutely,
books that other systems are like, why would you ban that book? A lot of times they have gay themes or
queer, because anytime they talk about queer people, it's sexual. Even though queer people live and exist in this world, and we don't, it's not like we're running around the streets, fucking each other. We're just existing, but just the existence of queer people in books is too much for children. Think of the children.
Well, that's like off topic slightly, but one of the people we were looking at to vote for, we thought that she might be a good candidate, and then when we dug into her deeper, we found an article, and the only reason she was running was because she found out that the state made sex education mandatory for all grades. And
as somebody who grew up in this state and who took sex ed in this state, like, there is so much. We are certainly not nearly as bad as places that have abstinence only education. Like, we're certainly slightly better than that, but really, at least when I went to school, which was 20 years ago now, but certainly not far from where we were. I feel like
not even 20, less than 20, but
whatever.
But yeah,
we need to be, and especially when, like, the Washington State, if you haven't looked into it, please do. I feel like her campaign was lying about what it really says. But it talks about sex ed starting in kindergarten, but sex ed in kindergarten is like, ask your friend before you hug them.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that should be something.
And consent, just learning what consent is.
But that is consent. I mean, consenting isn't just about sex. Consenting is about any kind of touch.
Yes, just learning about consenting to touch someone or hug someone.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
A lot of people just do that. They're like, I'm a hugger, here I come.
Yeah, exactly. I'm coming in. And I think it's taken a lot for people to learn that you need to ask first. But
coronavirus, it may change a lot of that. I mean, there may be people who are like, nope, I don't hug anybody anymore. You stay back. I'm sorry. Maybe before they would have stood there and let somebody do it, but now they might be, no, that's
well,
not
and
happening.
I've always, I haven't had this experience yet, but I hated hugging people because of my chest, because I thought that's all they can feel is my chest, because I had a fairly large chest before. And so that was part of my distaste of hugging people, you know, and like, but I also loved, I have friends who are huggers, and I just loved, you can feel their love when I have a friend, I'll just say her name because she's, you know, Anna. You know, Anna, she has one of these amazing hugs that you just feel like the whole world just drops and disappears, and you can just sit and enjoy that moment and just, you know, feel comforted in a hug. And I, you know, it's just one of those feelings. It feels so good. And even though I am not a big hugger and I don't necessarily enjoy it, if Anna's offering me a hug, I'm taking it every time, because it just feels so amazing. And so that's one of the things that I'm haven't been able to experience since my chest is no longer what it is. And I definitely look forward to the day when I can hug my friends again.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, way out.
Right.
We're way
2021 probably.
But you know, yeah.
But yeah, no. So point is, I mean, there's always people trying to ban things. Ban books is a big thing. And I can understand in a country like South Korea, where that was something that, you know, was
you can understand it, or like you see it and you like, it's just what it is.
Yes, but when like some small podunk, you know, podunk school system in, you know, Alabama does some book that everybody else is reading, it's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? You know, it's like, come on,
but the racist shit is all okay.
Well, yes, that's okay.
Right.
You know, but so anyhow, so Banned Book Club, it's a great story. I love the artwork was great.
Yeah, very manga, like you said.
Yeah,
I think you said that.
Yeah, yes.
We talked about it in the interview.
Yes, we did. And it was he said, you know, he wanted a Korean artist, and he got that style, which was really good.
Right.
And you know, it's a great story. I mean, you learn these people are just trying to you know, live a life, going to school, college and everything, but protesting and such becomes part of their life too, because, you know, reading a book is illegal and other things like that, you know.
Well, and what's funny is that her parents are she's going to college, and her parents are worried about her getting into trouble. And she's like, you know, I'm not going to get in trouble. I'm just going for the education. And she gets to school on the first day, and there's this big protest going on, and you know, she's trying to get through the crowd, and she ends up being late to class, and hearing these people talking about it. She's like, oh my God, these people. And then she says, okay, well, if I want to stay away from the protests, I better get involved in some extracurricular stuff. And then she finds out the extracurricular stuff is part of these protests, and the amount that she learns and grows as a person, just learning about the outside world. I feel like a lot of people get that. And this is why I feel like people say that, here, even college is this, you know, turns kids liberal. And it's really, that's really not the case. It's just that they are able to open their minds to ideas outside of what they were taught growing up. Because a lot of conservative families teach their kids, this is the way it's supposed to be, and you don't learn anything else. Whereas I feel like in liberal families, a lot of times you're taught to ask questions, and to form your own opinion, based on what you learn. And I feel like that was absolutely what her experience was. And I mean, I hope that that's the way it is for I mean, our children, for generations. I mean, when I see some of what the teenagers and kids of today are doing and accomplishing, I feel like, you know, they're going to get shit done.
Yeah. So the other book that we read and we talked to Ryan about was Student Ambassador: The Missing Dragon. Can a kid with a C+ in social studies negotiate a peace treaty, outsmart international assassins, solve a mystery, and teach a king to be a kid? It's a middle grade action adventure graphic novel. Both of these books are from Iron Circus Comics. They've got some great stuff. And
again, the artwork was great in this book. And it definitely is, you know, a kid's book. You know, our 10-year-old will definitely read this and I think enjoy it.
Yeah.
And and like Ryan said, he kind of based the main characters on himself, which I thought was pretty cool to hear.
Like both characters were him, like the good and bad.
And but that's exactly what you've said about some of the characters that you've written about, is that, you know, there's little pieces of you in each of them, and I mean, it kind of gives you an idea of what the real world is like. Everybody has a little bit of everything in them, you know, the villain and the hero. And I feel like we don't see that enough, because there's certainly, like, nobody's perfect, right? Everybody has a little bit of everything. And so I thought that was pretty cool to hear from him. Yeah,
but the story is basically this kid who he won an essay
student
contest.
Ambassador, yeah. Student ambassador essay.
He becomes
contest.
It's an essay contest, and basically he just gets to go to Washington to meet the president, and that's all it's supposed to be. And it turns out to be.
But that's not what you think of when you hear student ambassador.
Well,
right?
that's what he doesn't think of.
You know what ambassadors are, and you're going to be a student ambassador. You're going to do so many cool things.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what Ryan said when he was, you know, he was a student ambassador to Australia, and so he thought it was like, all right, I'll be able to do these cool things, and it turns out it's just, you know, like a glorified you know, vacation kind of,
right?
You know, where you get to do a couple things that other people wouldn't get to do, but you're not an ambassador.
You're just being tour guided.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's a fun story, and like it says, you know, there's assassins trying to kill this king who's a kid, and the king is just a kid, and he's king because his parents were killed, and he's the one who had to take over.
Yeah.
Some people are trying to kill him because he's the king, and, you know, somebody else wanted to take over. And it's fun. It's a fun story, and, you know, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely enjoyed it. Even as an adult, it was,
yeah.
I was excited to see what happened next. Which,
yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what I think, hope. And, you know, what's funny is he mentions in the book too about how you can't, how comic books aren't about learning. You can't read comic books because you don't learn anything from them. And I think that is definitely a misguided
the king
idea.
says that. Yeah, he thinks because
it's not that he thinks that, but his people,
his handlers,
that surround him are handlers. Yeah, have taught him that comic books don't teach anything, so you can't read those. Whereas, you know, the main character there learns how to read Korean through his comic books. So there's a lot that comic books can teach you, and we've learned that too. You learn a lot about history, our own, you know, country's history, and some things about other countries' history too that we didn't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. We've heard teachers, you know, denigrate comic books, saying that you need to do some real reading.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you think comic books are?
Yeah, then there are other teachers who are like, hey, if the kid's reading, they're reading.
Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
which is what you hope. So, definitely check those books out. Ryan told you all the places to follow him and get those books, which Student Ambassador comes out in August. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah,
both from Iron Circus Books, RyanEstrada.com. So until next week, this is episode 50. Thanks again for sticking with us for almost a year now. It's been about a year.
Yeah.
And until next time, my name is Mike.
And I'm Parker.
And this is
the Graphic Novel Podcast.